Hi, everyone. It's Nicole with the Marketing Alliance. Welcome to our Lunch and Learn webinar, your 2020 marketing update, digital marketing update. We have our panelists on and we still have people streaming into the room. I'm going to give it another minute or so and we'll all gather back together in just a minute. Great, so I think everybody is here or still streaming in, a few people. Again, thank you and welcome to the Marketing Alliance's 2020 Digital Marketing Update. We're so glad you could join us in our new virtual format. What we're enjoying about these sessions is that we get to see more of you. It's a little more convenient than everybody arriving to a room physically somewhere in Denver, and we welcome you. The Marketing Alliance is a collection of business to business marketers, communicators, public relations professionals, digital technology experts. And today we wanted to bring you some of our true experts in their digital marketing fields. And I do not want to take up your time by chit-chatting here because I'm not the expert, they are. And I'm going to bring everybody on and unmute our panelists, all just to say a quick hello to you and introduce themselves. We're gonna start with Maddie. Maddie, I would love for you to introduce yourself, and I think you're unmuted, so why don't you give a hello?
Yes, I think I am live and in stereo. So hi, everybody. I have been a member of the Marketing Alliance for a couple of years now, and it had a different name. And my contributions to this panel today are going to focus on my knowledge of sort of content marketing and SEO, as well as some basics about WordPress. These are kind of my two areas where I live in every day. So I have a company called The Blogsmith. If you want to check it out, it's just the-blogsmith.com. And I do content marketing for B2B technology brands, especially in the WordPress space. And you can also find me on Twitter. I'm at Maddie Osman. And yeah, I'm excited to collaborate with Nils and Ian today to hopefully share some strategies that can help you during this time to adapt and grow and hopefully prosper.
And Maddie, how did you get into your specialty area? What kind of drew you into that?
So it was definitely a long journey. It started when I was younger. I got really into web design and kind of just did it for fun. And then in college, I actually worked with Nils. We both went to University of Iowa. Best school ever. But anyway, so we worked in a marketing department and I did web design for different student orgs, different events they held, and even like updates for the bookstore website. And it was then that I was given the opportunity to write for the Student Life blog. And so it kind of, that job really like married my love of technology and content marketing in general. And I kind of just figured it out from there.
And you jumped in immediately to being on your own and serving as the leader of an agency?
So what I did was right after I graduated, I worked two different sales jobs, one at Groupon, one at a small a boutique social marketing agency. And really both of those jobs, I only really wanted to do marketing. They were kind of what I thought would be a foot in the door, but then eventually it wasn't happening as fast as I wanted it to. So I just made my own job.
And I love that because you are such an expert in your field. I always learn so much from you. So I can't wait to do that today.
So, Nicole.
Yeah, yeah. So Nils Thorson, go ahead and give your intro to everybody here so they know where you're coming from, where you've been at.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm Nils Thorson. I'm currently a brand strategy manager at Transamerica, which is a financial institution here nationally, but one of the headquarters is located here in downtown Denver. I started my career in social media pretty much right off the bat. I began in analytics, began to understand what drives things, what creates engagement. At the end of the day, what are the pieces of a cohesive and successful strategy? I focused on social media specifically at a number of different agencies before being recruited to Transamerica here in Denver. So I started in their social media team, but am now leading their paid advertising efforts across the board, whether it be social, search, display, television, print. Kind of a jack of all paid trades, if you will. But I'm very excited to be here.
Very good. Thanks so much, Nils. I appreciate that. And next, we're going to go to Ian Campbell, CEO of Mission Suite. Ian, where do you come from? What are you doing? And, what's your passion in the field of marketing?
Yeah, thanks so much. So I'm Ian Campbell, CEO of Mission Suite. Mission Suite is a CRM and sales automation software platform. I've been in marketing for 20 years now. I started doing this when I was, when I was 20 years old. I was sitting in a bar that I wasn't supposed to be in, and I was too young and stupid to know that I shouldn't be giving people advice on how to build their businesses. But fortunately, I didn't know that, and no one else did either. So, and my advice worked, and so I ended up in the marketing world, and ended up growing a consulting firm. Was consulting for a while during the big recession in 2008. I started doing agency work. I've been in-house. I've done all sorts of stuff in the marketing world. And in 2011, when I was living in San Diego, I connected with the developer of the software company and started licensing their platform as Mission Suite. And that's how I got into this, into CRM and sales automation, marketing automation. So now, for the past, 9.5 years, I've been focusing a lot of my efforts on helping people to kind of get the tech in place to automate as much of their marketing process as possible, the stuff that should be automated anyway, and automate as much of the and kind of keep their data clean, keep all their information in line and whatnot. So, and it's kind of, it marries that process side of me with the creative side of me. So I particularly enjoy it. But yeah, so that's kind of what I've done. I've seen all sorts of things, all sorts of tech over the course of the years, and so it's been fun to watch this side of the business grow.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I wanted to, talk to you all specifically. I'm in a place where I have to do a lot of things during this crisis that are quite different than what I've had to do before. And, I definitely want to hear about your, your general tools, tips, and trends, but I would love to kind of think about, what it is as a small business owner. I and everybody else out there on this call who is a small business owner should be doing now during this crisis from your perspective. What is your, what's your advice from your point of view that I, as a business owner or small agency owner, should be doing right now? Ian, let's get started with you.
Yeah. So the biggest thing that I've been telling people is keep reaching out to people and keep meeting with people. It doesn't matter if they are a client, a prospective client, a referral partner, somebody that you've done business with in the past, what have you. Keep reaching out, keep having conversations with people, and don't stop. Right. I mean, there was that kind of first 2 weeks of this whole quarantine shutdown thing where everybody kind of just dove into Tiger King and or whatever they were watching on Netflix. And and I get that, right? Because I mean, it was a big shock. It was kind of crazy. But if I'm being completely honest, I went down that rabbit hole a bit too, much more so than I care to admit. But again, the reality of this is going to be that the people that come out on top, the people that come out, doing well and still surviving, are the ones that are going to take this and say, okay, so just keep talking to people, keep having those conversations, because that's what is ultimately going to it's going to help you find new business opportunity. It's going to help you find new revenue sources. It's going to help you figure out how to expand your business. It's going to help you find new clients. All these different things that we typically go for, and we say, well, I can't do this because I can't go sit down with somebody. Sure, Zoom. I mean, we're all sick of Zoom. I love Zoom, don't get me wrong, but we're all sick of it, right? We're all sick of the online virtual thing, and I get that, but we can still do it. And so the biggest thing that I've got is don't stop doing it. Keep pushing forward, keep having those conversations, and keep taking those meetings.
Excellent. And I also wanted to ask you, Ian, what are some of the interesting trends that you're seeing people doing during this time from your lens as a sort of an infrastructure technology expert in marketing? What are some of the stupid things you're seeing people doing? And what are some of the smart things you see them doing? There's a lot going on out there, but something stupid, something smart.
Sure, yeah. So starting off with kind of dovetailing my last comment into the stupid thing that I've seen people do is kind of put things on pause, right? Kind of pause infrastructure investments, pause, those types of things, that they're, if they've already been, let's say someone's already using a CRM, and there are definitely situations in which I understand there's just no point in doing it, what have you, I get that, right? But and there's always going to be exceptions to these rules, but I've seen countless people start to panic a little bit and just all of a sudden turtle themselves into nothing. And those are the people that I see more and more and more often as time goes by, complaining about how we're never going to get out of this. This is never going to be the same. We're never going to get hurt. It's not going to be the same, right? This is a defining point, right? We've had any number of them over the course of my life, right? I mean, over the course of all of our lives, we've had any number of them, and so these kind of defining turning points change us, right? And so if you just kind of if you just kind of pull yourself in and go into a strictly defensive mode, you're not going to come out of this. And so though that's kind of and calling it stupid it feels a little harsh, but it's just kind of one of the ill-advised things that I've seen people do, I guess, more accurately.
I don't know. I say it like I see it, but I'm definitely guilty of having days where I feel just stupid, and I give myself permission and I move on to the next day. Tomorrow's another day. Just don't do it again. But I definitely have my stupid days where I just want to crawl in a corner, but you get out of it, right?
Absolutely. And I've been there too, right? Yeah, we've all been there.
Yeah. And I think that's, something that's just true, and that we should give ourselves and everybody else grace to kind of, get out of that turtle mode, as you said. So I would love to, go over to Nils and ask you some of, almost the same question. I would love to know what you're seeing that people are doing right and people are doing wrong during this time from your unique lens of social media expertise.
Absolutely. Social media is uniquely positioned in a situation like a global cultural financial pandemic, because people innately are going to want to build a community online. People are inevitably going to want to support one another online, seek support for themselves, and social media is uniquely positioned to do that well. So in terms of managing a company's social media profile, to me, the top two things are very close to what Ian was saying. Is first, highly prioritize the community aspects of what you're doing on social. Do not let any comment go unanswered. Make sure that you are engaged with the people that are proactively coming to you, and when it's appropriate, proactively go to them, whether it's another company, whether it's active users that are in your particular community. Make sure that they know that you are, a personified business just like any other person. And then along that same line, the second aspect is to show empathy as often as possible. At Transamerica, for instance, the content that we're pushing out there that's talking about how we're helping our employees work safely, about the charitable giving we're able to give during this time. It's that type of content that is highly engaging, 3x over the average during this time. And that's because people want to know that you are more than just a bottom line, that you are a group of people, a group of humans that are experiencing this same thing alongside your customers, and that you're here for them, and that you value them as people. Another relatively important thing is to consider the increased number of eyes that are potentially going to be on your content. People are searching through social media a lot more than they were previously because they have a bit more time on their hands. One overall digital trend is that podcasting, interestingly, hit a bit of a dive when COVID initially hit, because people were no longer commuting, which is such a high time to use podcasts in your daily life. And instead, they were watching online video that was increasing. And a trend that's, of course, very obvious to anyone paying attention over the past 3 to 5 years is that online video is increasing significantly, especially on social platforms. Facebook and Instagram push video a lot more in their algorithm than they will something else. So if you have the capabilities to create video, even if it's just a personal selfie type video, I would highly recommend that you do that. There's going to be more eyes on your content. Video is going to be something that's very powerful, especially if it's very authentic or high quality. That's sort of a gap that I would keep in mind. If there's an x-axis here of quality of video, this being a selfie cam, very authentic, and this being very high produced, I would try to keep it sort of in the extremes there. I wouldn't produce a video that seems okay. I would try to make it very authentic or very produced. I'd go one of those two routes. But just know that the more that you can try to connect, and then the more that you could push video if you have that capability, the more that you will be not only just being empathetic, but the more you'll be taking advantage of trends that are happening right now.
I think that's a really interesting point, because I think, and that's something that's brand new for, maybe not brand new. I mean, authentic voice, we've been tracking that for a couple of years, but I think it's becoming more prevalent, especially in paid media, where, okay, yeah, Jake from State Farm may really be an actor, but he's still at home with his iPhone shooting the video, as is the CEO of State Farm. So sorry to bring up another possible competitor out there, but anyway, I really have noticed that authentic voice is really connecting with people. I was like, wow, that's a real person. That's not an actor. So maybe his name is Jake. I don't know. Anyway, Maddie, I'd love to hear from, what's going on in your mind in terms of what you're seeing that's really good right now, in terms of some trends that are picking up and things that are kind of looking stupid to you.
Sure. So I'll do the stupid one first because I have a strong opinion about it. And that's in the content world, I have noticed a lot of brands sort of just like fatiguing me by sending too many emails, too many updates, and not just sort of like the necessary or like the legal things we need to know. Like, for example, the grocery store telling us about, you know, how they're handling, you know, every week, like new ways that they're trying to protect employees and, you know, protect shoppers and stuff like that. That I can excuse because I think it's a genuine, you know, interest in just communicating the ever-changing state of affairs. What I can't stand and what I think is really dumb is brands that are creating things for us to do to the extent that, you know, every day or, you know, once a week, I'm getting just like a mega newsletter from them. They've never sent email newsletters before. And it's filled with like, watch this video, do this crossword, you know, like paint this picture, print this out and color it or whatever. And like, I think it's coming from a very genuine place where they're wanting to sort of speak to the times and address that we're all stuck at home. And so that must mean that we have more time. But I mean, I can tell you from my experience, I don't have any extra time. I've always worked at home. So I've already, you know, kind of adapted to this prior to the COVID situation. But then we also have, you know, people who are parents with young children who can't get childcare anymore because, you know, they can't have the nanny over and they can't, you know, send them to daycare because maybe it's closed or something like that. And so it's kind of insensitive to those people who like actually have way less time than they ever did. And like, I don't need somebody to tell me like what to do with my time. Like pretty much like my whole adult life, I've figured out ways to, you know, be busy. So I guess I'm just kind of resenting that if you're picking up on that, but
Yeah, don't tell me what to do these days necessarily.
Can I jump in and add something to that?
Please.
You know, because you bring up a great point that because yeah, and what's so well, I could make a comment about people using software to constantly being like overwhelming people with those types of messages, but it's important to remember that business hasn't stopped, right? I mean, we're not business as usual, but we're still doing business on a day-to-day basis, right? And Maddie made a phenomenal point there in that, you know, like, listen, I'm still working, you know, I mean, just because I now have to work from home doesn't mean that I have time to do your well, I love crossword puzzles, so I'll do any crossword puzzle that you send me.
I can send them to you.
Yeah, right, exactly. Feel free. Although I don't get emails from my grocery store. That was, that, you know, I never would have thought about that. But no, I mean, but like those types of things it's important to remember that, you know, we have not stopped working. Business has not stopped. It's just changed, right? And I mean, yes, there are some businesses that are, again, everything has a caveat, right? There are some businesses that have had to, that did come to a screeching halt. And, you know, and I understand that. But even those people, they don't have time for your crossword puzzles, right? Because they're trying to figure out what to do next. And
Right.
so, you know, I mean, unless they're like me, but yeah, so it really is, it's an excellent point that we're not done working just because we have to work differently.
Totally. And, you know, there's also challenges with going suddenly remote. You have to set up your workspace. You got to configure these tools, you know, like Slack, like figuring out how to like mute it so that it doesn't annoy you all day, you know, stuff like that. But, and I don't even have a problem with brands that were already sending this stuff. Cause like, to give you an example, Creative Mornings they have a chapter in Denver and they have in-person events that are now going more like live stream, but they send on Thursdays a weekly roundup of like all sorts of different things just to sort of like get you thinking creatively. And it's like, well, I don't mind it from them because that's what they have always done. It's like Postmates, for example. It's like, you know, usually you get emails about like, here's a discount code, here's, you know, Kylie Jenner, what she ordered, whatever, like, you know, they kind of like curate it to make you interested in what celebrities are doing and using their influence to, you know, get more people to sign up. But, you know, now it's like every couple of days I get this huge roundup newsletter from them. And it's like kind of interesting, but it's also just like really annoying. So it's like, should I just not get any of your emails because I'm so annoyed by this one? But anyway, to not overly belabor the point, to answer the question as to what I've seen that's really good is a lot of clients, initially there was a wave where it's like, let's address COVID. Let's like, you know, speak in terms of like how our tools can help people who are adjusting or things like that. But pretty much after the first, I don't know, maybe like 2 weeks of us being in quarantine, you know, having some sort of shelter in place order, most of my clients are now like, let's not even talk about COVID. We can still create content that addresses the needs of people, that's evergreen in nature, so that it'll still be relevant, you know, a year or 2 or 3 from now. But let's, you know, let's be helpful. Let's aim to serve without kind of like reinforcing, I guess, the negative of the situation.
I like your point about evergreen content. I think that we're in such a unique now that we are risking talking about it too much, and then 6 months ago from now, when we've all kind of adjusted to whatever that looks like,
right,
you know, that content's so dated. I mean, you know, you kind of like, you don't want content that's more than a year old. It needs to be evergreen or no date. But anyway, so from, you know, going to your lens, Maddie, of content and SEO, what kind of tried and true tools from your toolbox are you using now? Is there something new that you weren't using when we last chatted with you like 8 months ago? I'll also remind everybody, if you've got specific questions, put them in the Q&A. I have that open, and I'll be looking for your questions. And we will also pop up everybody's email address into the chat at the end. So yeah, tools, tried and true, and also cool new ones that you're finding interesting to use.
Sure. So the main one that I kind of live in every day in terms of content and SEO is called Ahrefs. It's ahrefs.com. If you've heard of Moz or SEMrush, it's like the same idea. It's an all-in-one SEO tool. I use it primarily for doing keyword research because it has just a really nice database of, you know, things like being able to measure the difficulty of ranking for a term and the monthly search volume. And it even pulls in paid ads data, so you can see like what the average cost per click is for that term. You can segment it by different geographical regions. You can get keyword ideas based on, you know, whatever sort of seed keyword you put in to begin with. And then it helps you do keyword ranking tracking. So like once you create the content, how it performs over time. You know, if it's dropping, it's sort of like a reminder to update it. You can run a technical audit on your website with it. And then you can also track backlinks, and you can also do a lot of competitor research in terms of all these different things. So Ahrefs, it's not cheap. It starts at $99 a month, and that's the plan that I'm on. Which would be pretty sufficient for, you know, one or a few websites. And then once you get into like the agency side of things, then you're looking at like a more comprehensive plan. The tool is called Ahrefs. It's Ahrefs, and I just put that in the chat. So that's kind of my like old standby. Like I will always pay for this tool because it gives me back so much more value than I pay for it. And if you're you know, implementing an SEO strategy, whether it's for you or for clients or for both, you really need something robust like that. You can definitely cobble some things together with free keyword research tools, but they will never be as comprehensive as this one. In terms of a new tool that I'm trying that has helped me with my content stuff, fireflies.ai. I will also drop that in the chat. This is a really cool tool. It's brand new. It integrates with Zoom so that anytime that, like, say for example, you have Google Calendar invites or you know, like just events on your Google Calendar, and it has a Zoom URL in it, you can set it up to automatically join all those calls. And what it does for me is it transcribes those meetings. It takes a recording, so you have the audio, and it also has a transcription. And then they also have some stuff in the back end that you can use to like add additional meeting notes. And so I've been using that for meetings, but I've also been using it for when I'm working with a client on a piece and I need their expertise. So we'll have like an interview, Zoom call, for example. And then after that call, I have the transcript ready to go. I don't have to take like as detailed of notes in that call. And so I think that's something that anyone here could put into practice to improve their workflow, because it takes the guesswork out of trying to remember like the important details of a meeting. It's just transcribed, recorded. You can add notes to make it even more useful, and then it's done. So those are my two big ones that I use every single day.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. And because you're a content expert, being able to farm that content that you get on those interviews and on the others, you can start to look into it for content. So I would guess you could, do a search or do kind of see how many times somebody said this to kind of look for insights and ideas of where your content should be going for them.
Yeah. It's a great tool, and it has some AI functionality in that it can track like positive and negative sentiment and like other things. So I'm really excited about where it's going, because it is new and it has some glitches, but overall I've been really happy with it.
It was funny. I was on a call with you last week, and I said, "Who's Fireflies?" Jumped in, and it was like, somebody jumping into our Zoom. So
yeah, people are still getting used to it whenever it joins the call.
Yeah, it's like, I'm okay. I'm just listening in. So let's go to Nils. What kind of tools are your tried and true, and what's something new that you're seeing that you're using that we can start to kind of incorporate into our practice?
Sure. Well, to me, what's more important than the tools are the tried and true social media content practices and concepts. And so I'll throw just a couple out there because I think it's very important. First, I would challenge everybody as they're creating a content calendar of sorts, or when they're getting ready to click post on a particular post, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, to think about your piece of content as either useful or entertaining. Because if you don't think that your target audience, your fans, will find this particularly useful, they can get something out of it, there's a call to action perhaps, or entertaining in some way, then your post will absolutely be ignored. So that would be my challenge to you. Think about every single post that you're creating. Is it useful or is it entertaining? Now, in the world of entertaining, that's kind of my second point, and that social media is, again, particularly positioned to tell stories, specifically tell human stories. A trend that's been happening on LinkedIn over the past year that you've probably seen in your own news feeds is that despite social media experts telling you, you need to have great visuals, if you post something without a visual, people aren't going to look at it. And yet on LinkedIn over the past year, the posts that are gaining a ton of traction are posts that have no visual at all. And when you click see more, it's 4 paragraphs. And that's because they're telling a story. They're using social media in the way that it was first intended to be used, and that is to connect human beings amongst similar experiences, empathy, ways to relate to one another. So again, I would challenge you to think about your post being useful or entertaining, and in the entertaining realm, think about how you can tell a story. When it comes to tools, though, certainly very valuable, certainly very useful. There's a couple of different things. There's tools for scheduling. There's tools to help you build great content. There's tools to help you analyze. First, around scheduling, I think 5 really great free tools: Crowdfire, Sumall, Later, Hootsuite, which everyone has heard of, and Buffer. Now, for me, Sumall is particularly interesting today because since it's still in its startup status, what it gives you for free generally beats out any of its competitors. That said, that could change. That's sort of the risk that you take when it comes to joining in on a startup, is once they hit a particular aspect of their business model, maybe they start to charge you for things, maybe they grandfather you in, who knows? So from that standpoint, Hootsuite, of course, is a little bit more easily predicted because they are very well established in the tool, specifically social media tool realm. For content creation, there's a lot of great tools out there. I'm probably not aware of all of them. I know I'm not aware of all of them. But a couple of great ones are VSCO, when it comes to photo editing, and Photor, excuse me, when it comes to photo editing as well. Photor is Fotor. I'm partial to another tool called Unfold, specifically because of its ability to create fantastic stories content. It's made vertically. Every template that it has is in vertical format. You can have multiple videos playing at the same time in a singular frame. It's fantastic, especially because stories has kind of overtaken the newsfeed in a lot of different ways. I highly suggest that you're engaging in the stories and then highlights features of Instagram, because that is where that particular platform is going. And then lastly, analytics. I started my career in analytics. I'm a huge advocate of it. I think if you're not analyzing your content, there's no way that you can possibly improve, because you don't know what's working and what's not. The great thing about analytics is that it can be as simple as Microsoft Excel. A lot of you probably have Excel already loaded on your computers. You probably don't like to open it because it could be very scary. Some of you might love it. To me, I've found that downloading your content as an Excel file, maybe tagging it in a certain way to say, hey, I put this kind of visual here, this kind of visual here, and then turning that into a pivot table, that simple exercise can be incredibly powerful to tell you what your community is engaging with and what they aren't. The last thing that I would say, it kind of floats into Maddie's world, would be Google Analytics. If you don't have Google Analytics or a competitor of Google Analytics loaded onto your website, more importantly, if you're not actually looking at that data, you're missing out on a lot of potential improvement in what you're doing. I know it's not the sexy part of marketing, but analytics is incredibly powerful. There are plenty of videos out there, probably on YouTube, that you can find that will teach you how to begin to dissect what should I be looking for, what's important, what's maybe less important. But the more that you're able to dedicate time to that, I know we're all busy, maybe you can get a contractor to look at it, but the more you're able to look at the data, I believe the better you'll be on the other end.
So there were 5 tools, right? We also have Unfold, right? And that's just spelled regularly UNFOLD. Is that right?
So the 5 tools for scheduling would be Crowdfire, SumAll, Later, Hootsuite, and Buffer.
Okay, very good.
Then great content creation tools. There's a ton of them, but I talked about VSCO, Photor, F-O-T-O-R, Unfold, and Stencil is another great one. You have some limitations there from a free aspect, but it's a cool tool as well.
I'll jump in really quick to say that Stencil is a frequent AppSumo returnee, which is a marketplace for lifetime software deals. So my suggestion would be, if Stencil looks cool to you, sign up for AppSumo's emails, and then, they will definitely have it again. If they don't even right now, they might.
And that's a cool hack, is to sign up for AppSumo alerts. That's one that I know I've heard over the years, but I always forget to do. So to sign up for that. Cool. Well, moving over to Ian with a similar question. What are those tools and that are your tried and true? I know you've got an amazing CRM tool. I'm one of those people that's just waiting for the brunt of this to be over to jump in with Mission Suite. But what other tools do you use? Do you recommend in your world of contact management and customer relationship management?
Yeah.
And more than that, because I know your tool does way more than that. So
right. So it kind of comes down to 2 different sides of things, right? It's, first of all, it's how you're managing the data, and then the second one is how you're getting that data in there, right? So Mission Suite obviously is I'm in it every day. It's what I use all the time. There's obviously there are tons of different platforms that are out there. If you're just looking for, for an email marketing follow-up, or for like a blast email follow-up, MailChimp MailChimp's got their free version that can do some limited things and whatnot, you know, but there's, so it really kind of goes into what you need to do with that information, right? I mean, HubSpot's got a free version that has, you know, again, I mean, all these different free tools in the CRM and outreach space have very, very limited capacity, right? And then they start you start kind of bolting things on and integrating different things, and then the price starts to go up. And, you know, overall, it's still not terribly expensive, right? But I mean, they're definitely not, they stop being free pretty quickly if you need to do anything beyond just kind of a basic blast, or, you know, something more than your iPhone can do on, you know, in a contact database. So as far as kind of the system itself is concerned, whatever's going to work best for you and kind of and land well with you is going to be something that you know, you're going to have to find. But really, when it comes down to it, it's how you're getting those contacts into your system, right? So for a very basic CRM and automated kind of touch point conglomerate, if you will, what I tend to recommend is doing something like a Google Contacts, right? That can actually store all of your contact data, mixed plus Zapier as a middleware integration, and then Zapier can send that over to MailChimp, for example, and then once that contact gets into MailChimp, it can automatically push off an email, right? It's dirty. It's Frankenstein together, but it gets the job done, right? And so if you're just looking for something to get it to put in place, and you truly can't afford anything, and you need to find something free, it's a good workaround. And then you can kind of figure out as you grow what you need to grow into. But utilizing systems like that, Zapier is actually one of my favorite tools to talk about, because I use it. I mean, everything that I do goes through Zapier almost, right? I mean, whether it's Google Contacts, whether it's Facebook lead ads, if I'm doing any sort of social advertising, things like that, you know, I mean, all these different things can set up and go into Zapier, you know, can go into your CRM. So if you're, you know, doing website development, you have the Gravity forms already built into your website for quick and easy form building. You know, that connects to Zapier. Zapier sends it over to Mission Suite, MailChimp, whatever, right? Contacts, Google Contacts, all that different stuff. So really diving in and playing around with Zapier and looking at all the different things that you might be able to do with it based on some of the systems that you're using is really gonna be very, very beneficial. And then outside of that, of course, you know, I mean, I've got the webinar version of Zoom, and I'm in that pretty regularly. You know, it's the webinar upgrade from the baseline ended up costing me all in like $60 a month, something like that. But I get to put on webinars, you know, similar to this, and and broadcast to my network, and get people into my database that way. And then again, it connects to Zapier going into Mission Suite. And then everything that I do, I record and then drop onto EverWebinar as well.
Sorry, was that EverWebinar?
EverWebinar, yeah. So it's like $500 a year, something like that, and it's a way that you can run virtual webinars. And so you can have, like, for example, you know, I could have a webinar running right now that's actually recorded, but it's interacting like it's live. Right. So people can still submit questions and things like that. Right. So the different ways to create some evergreen content using that tech. And then, you know, kind of just, you can even set up a Zapier, a Zapier schedule to automatically post to LinkedIn once a week and say, hey, don't forget that we're doing this webinar on Tuesday. And then you click here to sign up, and then they go, and then they sign it, and then they register, go through the standard registration process, and then they're able to then, you know, so you collect their data, and then they get reminders just like it was live and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, there's a lot of those things that you can automate. Be careful what you're automating, because you don't want to be that person, right? That completely removes any sort of personal contact from your marketing and sales processes, but those are the things that I use, and just, you know, so again, as long as you're using them tactfully and you know, with a purpose, then you can get quite a bit out of them.
Excellent. I think quite a few of the people on the call are consultants and things like that. Have you found, I mean, I know your tool has a calendar for, you know, being more efficient with scheduling appointments and things. I hate what time is good for you? I don't know, anytime on Monday. Okay, but what time on Monday? And, you know, that just drives me crazy and such a time suck.
Right.
You know, the free version of Calendly is okay, but not awesome. But is there any other way that you found to kind of use that particular digital tool? It really is a customer relationship tool because it just kind of makes that whole process smooth.
Yeah, and that's one of those things you want to be really careful about how you're using, right? So, for example, when it comes to, in fact, I was just having a conversation with somebody earlier today about this. When it comes to networking, like scheduling a networking appointment, I won't schedule a networking appointment with, you know, like a first meeting, like a first networking coffee, what have you, with a calendar link. Right. I mean, I won't, because, you know, that whole, well, what time works for you? And then like that back and forth tells me a lot about the person that I'm scheduling with. Right. And there's a lot of personality that goes into that. And then that, and, you know, kind of, you know, bonds are forged in fire. Right. And so, you know, I mean, that kind of early step of the frustration of, oh, crap, this stupid thing, you know, like, no, sorry, I can't do it then. Can you do it then? No, I can't do it then. Okay, well, how about this? Right. That creates an initial bond. So when I get together for coffee with that person, there's, you know, right off the bat, we meet finally. Right. And it turns into something that's a lot more engaging. You know, but that said, I love my calendar, like my booking calendar, you know, like you said, I have, you know, Mission Suite does have one built into it, and I use it all the time for training sessions, right? You need to book a training session. Here's a link to my training calendar. Grab a time that works for you and go from there. Right. And then, but there's also kind of that middle ground that you can use where basically you know, you send the email, hey, here are 3 times that work for me. Let me know if one of these work for you, and then if you need it, here's a link to my calendar that if that would make it easier, right? So you can kind of you can find wherever your kind of perfect process is, and, you know, you should be good to go. And again, not everybody works like I do, right? So I mean, whether you're using a time trade, whether you're using a Calendly, whether you're using, I mean, they're all relatively similar. They've got the free versions that have, you know, this level of service, and then you pay for it and you get up here. You know, Schedule Me or Schedulicity, and you know, all these different. There's plenty of them out there, but that's something that you want to be really careful about how you're using, because you could really quickly remove any sort of kind of personal engagement from that scheduling process.
Okay, I want to just chime in and say I do the exact opposite of Ian. So I use the paid version of Calendly, and I have several different events set up for like an intro call with a new customer versus like the content interview where I'm interviewing someone to get their expertise versus like a coffee chat with, you know, another freelance writer or something like that. And on my Calendly thing, when I send the link, there are several questions that people have to answer. And one of them is like a little checkbox that says like, I've seen and agreed to your pricing, with a link to that. And like my calendar booking process, again, is completely the opposite of Ian's, because I just don't want to waste time with anybody who's not like in my ballpark at all. And especially as an independent contractor, freelancer, it's like we have, you know, so little time to work on admin stuff before it starts working or like cutting into profitability. So yeah, there are definitely 2 different schools of thoughts. But even if you don't use a calendar scheduler for that first meeting, like Ian was saying, I mean, there's so many applications where it's just infinitely easier. And then to just like get back on tools for a second, one way to make that even more like, you know, efficient for you to be sending those links out is I use a tool called Text Expander, and I will type that in here as well. Text Expander is essentially like you create text shortcuts like abbreviations, and when you type them out, it expands them. And so it could be as simple as a link, but it could be also as complicated as an email formatted with like pictures and, you know, bold and underline and bullet points and whatever. So anyway, I have this one email template that I can send people, and it's just very basic, but it gives me the ability to select one of my Calendly links. So I just like route them all in there so that for any situation I have the right link and I don't have to go into Calendly, copy paste it and put it in. And it just, whenever I type that little text expansion thing and it expands, then it gives me the option, which Calendly link do you want to put in? And the whole process takes like 2 seconds to do. But, you know, for the person who sees it, they might have thought that I, you know, put all this time into making this email. So I think like now, like forever, like it's always important to be looking at different ways that we can just save ourselves time on the stuff that we do every day. You know, I'm not the type of person who would say that like always pushing for greater efficiency is the greatest use of your time. But I think for the stuff that we definitely are going to repeat, like that first outreach email to a new prospect, it's really important to just like take the cognitive strain off yourself. What should I include in this email? Where did I put that link again?
Yeah, and that's a really good point too, is that, you know, because I mean because it does all depend on your business, right? I mean, my whole business revolves around networking and referrals, and so, you know, it becomes that personal touch becomes you know, kind of gains a different level of importance, right?
Totally.
You know, and that I guess personal touch is, you know, really just kind of the pulling and tugging and whatnot. You know, it's a different kind of perspective. And then when you've got but then, you know, to your point about having those kind of pre-created emails, I love that. Right. Like, I mean, again, I do a lot of networking. I meet with, well, when I can, I go to a lot of events and, you know, would meet a lot of people. And then, you know, it got to a point where I realized that I was sending the same email to everybody that I met networking every single time. It was just that I felt better because I spent the time to rack my brain about how to type it differently. But
Sure.
differently meant 3 words, right? I mean, it wasn't like it wasn't different enough. So it just became a lot easier just to kind of create a standard email that goes out, you know, so I can put it into my system, you know, select a follow-up, hit save, and then the email automatically goes out. I get a reminder to make a phone call a little bit after that, right? So I'm a huge proponent in what Maddie just said. I mean, and text expander seems like an interesting tool. You know, I use a similar thing with shortcuts on my iPhone and the Mac and whatnot. So, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, those things are really cool.
So Niall,
Both of you.
yeah. So Niall, what kind of so we've gotten some great digital tools from each of your areas of expertise, and it's kind of gravitated also to how do you manage your relationships, your time, and all of your communications a little bit, because that's, you know, we've only got a limited amount of that. Do you have any cool hacks, tools, tricks you use for those kinds of conversations?
Yes and no. In terms of saving yourself time, there's a lot that you can do with social media retargeting. Now, obviously, we're jumping into the world of paid campaigns here, and it's a bit of an annoying reality, but a reality all the same, and that social media has more and more over the years become a pay-to-play platform.
Mm-hmm.
Can you succeed on social organically? Yes. Yes, you can. Is it significantly harder to do that in 2020 than it was in 2010? Yes. So to work with some sort of paid social media expert, I feel like is very worth the time because of the automated retargeting things that they can come up with for you, especially if you work in the retail space. A quick example of that would be the catalog retargeting available in Facebook, which is based on the marketing funnel traditionally. So you can place pixels on your website in various aspects to retarget people based on where they are in terms of purchasing your product, right? So if they visited your website, but they haven't actually looked at any particular product individually, you can retarget them with any number of your products. Whereas if maybe they viewed let's say you're a leggings company, they viewed your camouflage leggings and not anything else. You can retarget them with just various types of camouflage leggings. Whereas if they've added something to their cart, but they didn't actually purchase, you can give them a very specific messaging with 15% off to push them over the finish line and get them to actually purchase. So there's a way that you can set up based on pixelation and retargeting, a very automated, you don't have to touch it. You just provide a certain amount of dollars per month into those particular audiences and it'll run for you. So there's a lot of ways to save time that way. Of course, it does cost money. That said, Wall Street Journal came out with statistics saying, hey, in recessions, those who are able to still put money towards paid advertising tend to see about a 275% higher revenue growth.
Ooh.
Those who aren't able to advertise. I know
That's stunning. It's
stunning, and it's a little bit of a difficult conversation to have. I understand that because in a recession, money's harder to come by. But if you happen to be able to place money towards paid advertising, the data clearly shows that it pays off afterwards.
Perfect. Well, guys, we're about at the top of the hour. If anybody's kind of got anybody have kind of a last word of wisdom that just popped into their head, or we cover most of the things that we wanted to share about our tools and our digital trends. We good?
I'll jump on Nils' point, which is that a recession, or even I guess a depression, it seems like a really scary thing, and it is. I'm not going to downplay that, but some of like the companies that we use all the time that are, so notorious today, like Airbnb, Uber, other big tech giants like that, those companies were all born from recessions. And I think that kind of like keeping that in mind and sort of like knowing what the circumstances of a recession are and how you can in some ways actually use those to your benefit. Like to give a personal example, we just refinanced our house. So, like luckily we had the money to be able to do that. I guess technically we could have rolled it into the loan, but that just seemed kind of like a silly thing to do. It's like if you have the capital available, which is obviously the first problem, like you can make it go so much further, just like what Nils was saying with paid ads. There's going to be less competition right now for some of the same resources. So now's really the time to like strike on a business idea you're considering, or, an acquisition you want to make, or, even like tools, like the tools we're talking about, a lot of them are offering scaled down plans or, free access for a couple months and things like that. So like be, I guess, like a student of the recession and look for all these different opportunities because they are there. Like this is such a great time to build your business. If you have the energy for it, I think you have to take care of yourself first. But, when you see an opportunity, like take it, like use this time to really consider like where you want to go next and like how people like us, how tools, whatever can support you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean,
okay, so we're really at the top of the hour. Feel free if you want to stay. It sounds like Ian's got one more word of wisdom for us before we depart. But I do want to thank everybody who is on the call for joining the Marketing Alliance based here in Denver, Colorado, an alliance of business-to-business marketers, communicators. We welcome our B2C communicators and marketers as well to join the conversation, but we do focus on business to business here. Follow us at our website for additional webinars that we're going to be hosting throughout the next couple of months. And Ian, you want to bring it home for those that are still here?
Yeah, I was just going to make the point, one more time I made earlier that, crisis breeds opportunity. Right. I mean, with this it comes all sorts of opportunity to make amazing things happen. Right. And whether that's financially, business wise, conversationally through social, working on working on content. I mean, there's all sorts of opportunities to do some great things here as a result of crisis. Right. So use it and keep pushing.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful day and make some opportunities happen. Bye-bye.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.